sponsors. They've not asked for it. When they ask for things, we get them. Like right here, a woman that hand quilts, she wants these things. And she instead of pinning, she uses these all around the edge of her.
Okay, yeah.
And they look just like your things for your hair. Yeah. But she said, no, they're a little bit tougher than the things
I saw
for your
that,
hair.
and I thought, what are those hair things doing?
I know, right? I know. Hello, Allie.
That's what I said. Yeah.
So, but that's just for your edges.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see.
They work good.
Yeah.
How much batting do you need? You know.
They've got some new pieces in since we chose last time. I like this red, white, and black bandana style. That's what it looks like.
Baby.
Looks nice.
Oh, Did she say to give it to you on what?
She didn't say what price. She just said to tell you to put it on
This
sale.
one's pretty.
Okay.
It's got the different.
She's got mostly 20%
Looks
off.
ethnic.
On,
Got ethnic designs in
Did you
there.
read all the sales she's got?
It's pretty.
She's like crazy.
She has kind of gone bonkers.
Right.
How many ready to sew tonight?
I'm ready to sew. Just put it.
Yeah, you got your belly full.
Yeah. Just tell me what you want.
Well,
We
turn
got
it
a
over
little
to
bit of
Kay.
sewing to do. Let's see. We got
Turn it over to Kay.
2, 3 good sewers.
And so the
Well, we don't have a whole
you
lot
passed
of.
me up.
No, I finished. You didn't let me finish. We don't have a whole lot of
You see what you play.
difficult stuff left to do. To be honest with you, you're about to see why. They did a lot of sewing last week. They sewed all the blocks together and everything.
Good job. They did.
They sewed all the blocks and yeah. And so we've got straight lines. It's already been blocked off and put together and just
I'm trying to stay on the straight.
just got framing and border left, and the actual, and this is for the prayer quilt. We're doing 2 quilts this year. Audrey, I'll fill you in. Doing 2 quilts. One's a prayer quilt. We're going to donate it to Hospice Center. And then we're doing another one has a local theme. This thing's about hazard. But they worked really hard last week putting those blocks together. So we've got 4 sessions left, including tonight. So 3 of them. So we should be able to get done with all this. I'll go ahead and show you where we are on this so we can go ahead and start making our frame and our border. So y'all get to cut tonight. You cut and stitch. Measure, cut, and stitch. But this is, let's see. Can I get my top? Here we go. This is how it is so far.
Okay. So how big is it going to be?
Well, this depends on how we're going to frame it, and then there's going to be a border. Everybody's look this way this time. So we're going to frame it, and there's a border. And this was kind of tricky to put that cross in there. It was kind of tricky to, and you had to block it off and stuff like
I think
that.
the border, help to bring it out.
Yeah. So the border, I want it to be. Somebody come over and hold this. You can hold that side. I want it to be. We don't see. Okay. I want it to pull out this darker color because there's so much brightness going on here. So I want the frame to actually be the dark purple, and then around it a lighter color. The border a light, and the back will be a lighter color, like maybe this teal, this light blue in here. So that'll make it pop. What do you think, Pam?
What was it now? What are you going to put around the
Sounds
outside?
good.
The frame, I want to frame this in the darker purple.
Oh, yeah.
And the border, the back and the border would be a lighter color, like maybe the light blue
Yeah.
teal there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
How big a frame? How wide?
Maybe something like that. 4 inches maybe.
And then explain to everybody the tacking part. Explain the tacking part again.
So we're gonna be put it after we frame it. We'll go ahead and pick out the well, we can do that today. We'll pick out the fabrics today. But now you guys explain, where's Charlinda go? How you do your tacking
The prayer quilt.
with your prayer quilts. Do you quilt and then tack?
Yes.
Yeah. We're gonna quilt it and then we'll tack it. This is small enough that we don't have to get anybody else to do it. So I can just follow the lines
In the
and stuff to
ditch.
quilt it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we want her to focus on
In
the
the
other
ditch,
one,
in the
getting that
ditch,
one
yeah.
quilted.
Explain what you're talking about in the ditch.
In the and along the
in the seam.
in the
In the
seams.
seam.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that would make a really pretty pattern on your back too.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll do that and then explain your tacking that you do.
The knots that they put on the quilt is you tie, it's like a square knot, left over right and right over left. And when you tie it, you say a prayer for the person.
So we'll all get to tack and pray.
Now we make our tacks longer than they do if you're just regular tacking the quilt, so they can tie
Yeah.
multiple knots.
So there you have it.
I had one friend well, I might as well go ahead and tell you, it's Jean Rice that used to work with social services and things. And we gave him the church. He goes to attend their church, and the church gave him his prayer quilt. He took it with him to UK. He was in the hospital for a good while. Every doctor, every nurse, every aide, anybody that walked in his room that was new, he said, "My church made this prayer quilt. Would you like to tie a knot?" And he had so many people tying knots on his prayer quilt.
And pray.
And he liked his so well, and then his buddy, Freddie Combs, got sick. Peggy and Jean sent me a message one night, like on Friday, and Jean wanted a prayer quilt at church Sunday morning. I said, he'll have a quilt at church Sunday morning. He wanted to give it to Freddie. So that was really something coming from Jean wanting to give his buddy a prayer quilt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great story.
All right, so I'm gonna go get some fabric, and we'll let you all start measuring and cutting.
All right.
Measuring and cutting and sewing.
I'm Erin Miller, she, her. I'm the director of weaving at Berea College in the student craft program. I've been at Berea College since 2019, and I came here from a position at East Carolina University. Before that, I got my master's degree in textile design from Eastern Michigan University. Before that, I was at Kent State University in Ohio, getting a bachelor's degree in fibers, textiles, and I grew up in Toledo, Ohio, so long way here.
And my name is Danielle Helton, she, her, and I'm an education studies major here at Berea College, and I'm a senior finishing manager here at the weaving studio. I'm from North Carolina, and like near Raleigh, that kind of area, and I'm just excited to be here.
If you all want to just talk about how you got into textiles? What kind of drew you to that art form?
Mine's probably a little longer than yours.
Maybe a little.
Yeah, this is a little bit. So I have been sewing since I was really small. I started with an interest in making garments. And then I was very lucky to go to an enormous high school where they had a fiber art program. So that's where I first started to learn about like textile dyes, and I got to weave a little bit. So from there I went on and I started a small business in garment design and production. It was focused mostly on reclaimed textiles, so like old bed sheets, dead stock textiles from big companies. And I ran that for about 15 years. And while I was doing that, I went to school for business. And throughout that journey, I figured out that I was a lot more interested in the actual textile than I was making the clothing. So I continued on my journey through school and got a degree in textiles, and that started to lead me down the path of potentially teaching, and that's kind of ultimately what led me here. But I've been sewing for a really long time, weaving for about 10 years, and I just really, really love like the construction of textiles and understanding where fibers and textiles come from.
I think I've been sewing for about 10 years now. I started sewing in middle school and really started learning from my mom. My mom used to work here in the weaving studio when she went to Berea, and she worked here all 4 years. So she would tell us stories about different things that she would make when she went here, and just various summers that she would spend here, and just really like got me interested in crafts and working with my hands. I love working with my hands. I think high school was when I explored weaving a little bit, but really not much. We had like one project where we had a TA come in and she was focused on weaving. So we learned how to do tapestry weaving for a project, but it was very limited. I'm definitely more on the side of sewing things than I am weaving, but I love trying to figure out how to understand how things piece together and just making my own things. Here lately I've been just like making more things for myself versus like stuff for the studio. But I think it plays a role in both. I think it's a lot of fun.
Cool. Well, I love that you said that you kind of learned from your mom. Have you both kind of had like a strong background like in your family with sewing and weaving?
I have a really strong background in art, which is really fortunate for me. So no one in my family really is an artist by trade, but they're all deep appreciators of the arts. So I was exposed to art and like that kind of the concept of making from a really young age. In terms of sewing, my grandma is a quilter, my aunt is a quilter, but that was not really who I learned directly from. It was just like a constant influence from around me.
For me, it was definitely my mom's side of the family. My grandmother was a quilter, and we got a lot of her fabrics, her sewing machines, and various quilts that she was either working on or completed with when she passed away. And when she passed away, that's when my mom did pick up and start teaching me how to sew, so we could work on some of her old projects and things. My mom used to make Raggedy Ann dolls and things like that for people and like who were having new babies and things. And I think at one point all of my cousins all had one made by her. And just working from her directly, she was definitely my main influence of why I wanted to pursue art.
Is there certain things, I guess, that kind of inspire your designs, inspire you to kind of be like, oh, that would be a cool kind of design to put in a piece or anything like that?
I think, so I have kind of two separate methods of making. So I have a personal studio practice kind of outside of my life here in the studio. And then I have a totally different practice that exists inside of this space. So my personal work is very influenced by queer identities, consumer culture, trauma-informed research, things like that. And that definitely influences some of the work that I do here. But the students are the biggest source of inspiration as we're working here, because you all are doing primarily all of the ideation and design. So I'm just kind of like stewarding that process through you guys. Yeah.
I definitely think that's one of the favorite things about being here is that we are actually able to input our ideas into the designs we're creating, and we get feedback from each other. So I myself went through the process last year of trying to create something, and we went through many back and forth sessions of that's not going to work, that's going to work, maybe not this way, let's try it again this way. And we just went through and saw how many ways we liked to how it worked out, and just picking out the colors together and what works, what doesn't, unique colors that they could share in various projects. Like these quilts are definitely a good example of that, where some of them have very unique patterns and some of the blocks only have one specific color that's only in that block, and others they're shared throughout all 4 of them, or just like the whole quilt, and it's just cohesive, and I love it. But finding that creativity with us together is really interesting. When I'm creating things for myself, it's definitely what I am currently interested in or who it's for. It really just depends on like the project itself.
And I think that you all tend to have a lot of different approaches to finding creativity and like finding inspiration. So I know for the dawn and dusk placemats, like you were looking at images, but then there are other students who will start with a concept, or they'll start with like one of the great commitments of the college and use that as kind of a starting point to start thinking about like what could we make that represents this object. So there's a lot of different ways that you can think about how to be inspired.
One thing kind of with the college itself, bringing in that diversity aspect, have you kind of seen that with the growth of the weaving department itself?
Yeah, so when I started in 2019, 95% of the products that we were producing were heritage items, things that we had been producing in some capacity for 50 plus years. And now, this year, 97% of the products that we're producing throughout the whole of student craft were designed by students. So it is now more truly representative of the students that are working here and what you want to see go out into the world, and are representative of your stories, which is really important to me. And it makes the job more rewarding for me, more interesting for you, and just like more fun for everyone. But it's given, I think, students an opportunity to like genuinely tell their stories from their own voice rather than having the college tell the story for them, which I know can be like really problematic at this particular school because of the demographic that the students come from often. So the work that we're doing in craft is trying to be the opposite of that. And really trying to like uplift you all specifically. So because of that, I think that we've really attracted like a really wide variety of people who are interested in like coming and working here. One, because it's great and it's like very chill, fun to work here. We're learning interesting things, and 2, because they can genuinely tell their own story. So I can think of a million examples in weaving specifically, but one that we've been talking about recently is the intersections cutting board in the woodcraft studio. So typically you wouldn't think of conversations about intersectional feminism happening in a wood shop, but that is what was happening, and that's how that product was being made. So it's not just happening in weaving. It's happening everywhere, and that's really important. Yeah.
I think the most interesting thing is like the amount of mixing of majors.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people assume that we're all going to be art majors or like minors and things of that nature, but we've had nursing majors graduate from here. We have bio majors. I'm an education major. We're all like very different scopes of art, and you don't even have to necessarily have an artistic ability. You just have to enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah.
I think that's the coolest part of the process.
Yeah, and that brings in like such a variety of different voices too, because I come from like a relatively traditional art background where I was teaching art classes to art students. And sometimes you get siloed and you miss out on all these other conversations that are happening about art that are like not as insular. It was really interesting.
So for your students, do you get a lot that have like already background experience in sewing or weaving? Is it a mixed bag?
It's a mixed bag. So the vast majority of people that come in don't have any experience. Sometimes we get really lucky and we have someone that knows how to use a sewing machine or has touched a cone of yarn before, but most people don't. And I love all of it. Like all levels of learning are really exciting for me because introducing someone to a loom or a sewing machine for the very first time can like feel really overwhelming, but it's just a tool, and they're all tools that I really, really love. So it makes it easy for me to teach about them because I love them so much. Yeah.
What does that process look like, I guess, in terms of seeing someone who may be apprehensive about doing this and then kind of seeing them grow in their own artistry?
Yeah, I can talk about that with weaving, and I think you could probably touch on that a little bit in here, because since Danny is the manager, she's done some teaching in this space as well, and it's chaotic. Berea College, because we're a work college and this is in the work program, it's not like a traditional academic course. We only have all of our students all at once for 1 hour per week. Otherwise, everyone is coming and going all the time. So I might start out at 8 o'clock in the morning teaching someone how to weave a particular object and checking in on them, and then I'll have someone come in at 8:45 and I'm teaching them how to do something else at the same time. So it can be really chaotic and you have to pay attention to all kinds of things all at once, but it is the same content that you would be learning in a traditional academic course. It's just like varying levels of it happening all at once in a very chaotic way. But just like anything else, you start with the basics, you know, and you go from there. Yeah.
I guess just also depends on how our schedules work out, because sometimes you have nobody here for like several hours or even sometimes the whole day, and then other days you have everybody is in here for the same 3-hour time slot, so good luck.
Yeah.
But I think that's also great where like we could divide and conquer and really like learn these new processes. When I was learning these sewing machines when I first got here, they were so scary. I've never seen a hip bar on a sewing machine, and the fact that they were semi-industrial, I was like, this is strange. I'm used to my sewing machine from Walmart. And just like learning these new features and like even like stringing it, like threading the machine was completely different than a at-home sewing machine. So learning all the processes and then also learning how to actually pull and sew the products themselves. Like I didn't want to pull the wrong threads and create a sew channel that was too small, too big, or anything like that. And just like, oh no, you cut that a little too big. It's okay.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Yeah. Mistakes are a part of the learning process, and I think like that's one of the most important things about being a teacher is, one, I really love what I do and what I'm teaching, and two, like mistakes are part of the learning process. If you don't make mistakes, then you don't learn how to correct those mistakes or identify them. So like they are an essential part of the learning process, and like it happens, it's fine. It's just a piece of cloth, like not the end of the world. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see. Is there anything else you all wanted to add or anything in terms of your experience here in the weaving department at Berea College, or perhaps talking about, I just lost my thought.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I wanted to kind of touch back on was you were talking about your inspiration and how it was kind of LGBTQ informed and informed. I guess how does that manifest? Does that come out in what you are actually creating, or the patterns and stories that the patterns tell?
So in my personal work, I create a lot of woven objects, prints, things like that. And it comes out in a lot of different ways kind of in that work itself. But I think that in terms of the work that I do here, that sort of knowledge and education helps me with communicating with students. And communicating, my needs, helping people to communicate their needs, and creating an environment in which like that's safe and possible to do. I think that because we've kind of cultivated that sort of space here, we attract a lot of students that do have trauma or are queer identifying, and creating a space in which they feel safe and empowered to tell their story and articulate their needs is, I think, really important. So I think that's the primary way that my personal work kind of informs the work that I do here, though I could talk about my personal work all day. Yeah.
Anything similar for you in terms of pulling in your personal life inspiration into your work that you're making here at Berea College?
There's definitely a lot of myself that I put into things I've made for the studio. With the Dawn and Dusk placemat series, that was from my whole experience of working at a summer camp for 3 separate summers and just enjoying my time being outside. I love watching sunsets and just taking time to be in a space that's quiet and wrap my day. And I think going into that project, learning how to actually structure the design I had in my head as a woven pattern, because I had no idea what I was doing. Thank goodness I was working with someone who was also a weaver. Yeah, because he definitely explained a lot of things I did not understand. He goes, yeah, we're going to make this weaving structure. I was like, okay, you got this. I'm going to go over here. But I think I've tried and pull out things that I like about myself and like my background to bring myself into the art. I think just allowing yourself to be part of what you're making is just an interesting part of the process.
Do you feel like the students who kind of learn this art form here, do you feel like they carry it with them outside after they graduate? Or?
I think so. I like to think so. So I started in 2019, so I haven't been here for a tremendous amount of time, but I've now seen one full graduating class. And we have a student, Leroy, who's going to go on and probably be like an incredible doctor. So he's applying to medical school right now. And we have an annual Loom Award that we give away. So this is something that we've been doing since the 1920s. So every year, one graduating senior gets a full loom package. So loom, yarn, all the tools that you need. And it's funded by an endowment. And so he was awarded the loom package last year when he graduated. And he just reached out to me recently and is like setting up the loom for the first time, because it's like the first time he's had space in his life to do it. So I've got a Zoom call set up with him later on to help him figure out the tie-ups and all of that stuff. So even though he's going to go on to be like a fabulous doctor, I think that he's still carrying that creativity with him. And I hope that that's true of everybody that leaves, even if it's just like sewing now and then, or having a deeper appreciation for like a hand-woven scarf that they see, or just like a more deep understanding of where the cloth comes from that you're wearing every day. One of the things that I like to say is that we're not teaching production weavers, we're teaching people to go out and appreciate the arts. So to be on the board of their local arts council, or to lobby for funding and for the arts in their schools, things like that. So yeah.
I definitely think it does continue after this. With my mom graduating about 30 years ago from the weaving program for all 4 years, she continued to weave on her own time after she left. And even though she had me and my 3 brothers, like, she still tried to make time for herself for these functional crafts, or like recycling any fabric that we happen to have. And I made a tapestry loom in high school that I was able to have on our tabletop, and she's used that quite a few times since I've let go of it. So it's really interesting. Like, I definitely am going to continue after I leave. And I think it's just left a lasting impact on everybody who's been here.
Cool. I like to hear it. Dawn, she's a nursing major and a really excellent painter. So we had her paint the painting of ginkgo leaves, and then I scanned it, turned it into fabric that we had printed, and then from the printed fabric, we made some tote bags and these little pouches and a tea towel. So we're starting to experiment with using that kind of concept for production too.
It's the fact that it's a sewing machine for a sewing machine cover. I think that's just the most pleasing thing I could have ever done.
I love it.
Oh, I love the way it turned out, and I want a whole quilt of this now. Oh yeah, I forgot. There's also a seam ripper on there.
Cute.
It turned out so great, and the fact that we already had a sewing machine stitch pattern made it even better. Like, you cannot tell me that it's not scrumptious. Like, I would have to heavily disagree with you if you said this wasn't the most amazing thing. Cut all these threads down here at the bottom so that this edge here can be rolled into a rolled hem. Our sides along these edges here and there kind of just get left alone, but these edges here need to be finished, so what we'll do is we'll roll them into a good about ½ an inch or so, and we'll clip that in place so I could sew along that front line right there all the way down on both sides.
I think one of the cool things about this whole process is that like we're doing everything from start to finish. So the students are doing all the designing, all the ideation, they're making the objects, they're washing them, they're doing all the sewing and finishing, and putting the tags on at the end. So like everything.
And we got a good foot there. That's my favorite part, just watching it be nice and clean. Oh, it's so great.
It's lovely.
But I'll have to do that for the whole side, and then also check the underside to make sure there's no stragglers on the bottom. We try and get them all on the same side during mending, but sometimes a couple of them sneak through. Roll it like possibly can on this guy. As I work through, I try to make sure if I have any tails popping through, I tuck those down so I could sew them in. Make sure it's all nice and even. And this color scheme was specifically designed for who was it designed within Reach?
Yep.
They're the only ones who purchase it, right?
Yeah, we have a partnership with Design Within Reach, which is a subsidiary of the Herman Miller company. And we sell a couple exclusive products through them. This is one of them. And then a few other things from Woodcraft we sell there too.
I just love this color scheme. It's one of my favorites. Just nothing beats a good foresty scene.
It's lovely.
I say that because I'm biased. I love being in the woods.
So do you all make the fabric here as well too?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. So the loom that I'll demonstrate on is this product. Yeah.
I guess in terms of like deciding what kind of fabric to use for a piece, I guess what is the process in thinking about that?
Yeah, that's partly in like the ideation and design process. So sometimes folks will be inspired by a particular fiber or something like that. But usually it's kind of like the means to an end. Like they're communicating through color and pattern. And it might be that like cotton is the most reasonable thing to use for that. I think this is one of the few objects that we have that there's a lot of intention behind the materials that we're using. So the warp, which is the yarn that's on the loom, is hemp, and then the weft is wool. And that's a really traditional fiber pairing from this region. And that's a pre-colonial traditional fiber pairing from this region. So before European flax or cotton or tobacco were primary cash crops in Kentucky, hemp was the largest cash crop in the state of Kentucky, and it is the most sustainable fiber that's used for making clothing. But because of pretty severe government regulation, there are very few hemp growers anymore in the whole of the United States, let alone Kentucky, where it's particularly difficult and expensive to grow. So this is really kind of like a celebration of that history, the pre-colonial history of the area. Lock that in. All right. Turn that. Cool. I like to snip that so I don't forget it. At this point, I just use an object to hold it down and keep this top fiber in line with this bottom one, because we have something that's underneath here that's pulling the bottom layer, but not necessarily this top layer. So I'm trying to keep them sandwiched as close to where I had them pinned as I could. But sometimes I go really fast, sometimes I go really slow. Today's gonna be a slow day. The colors that you see are all chosen by students, and then as the object is woven, they get to decide how large and small the stripes are as they're weaving, so they have a little bit of control over the final look of the object. And then that means that each one of the blankets is like a little bit different. Just the placemats, and then going smaller and smaller to like coasters, and eventually those bookmarks. And now I'm making like larger and larger products. Yeah. And I think that's really fun, like when I started doing all the quilts and they just take up my entire workstation. Or like this, they're just dangling off the table. I just love that progression of I went really small and I've gone to the opposite extreme. Mm-hmm. Oh. I think that there is a popularity in craft in general, and I think it's a lot of people now are growing up in like a two-dimensional space, so they are learning from screens, so there's not the same sort of like three-dimensional understanding of space that's inherently being taught in school anymore, and I think that people are seeking that outside of like traditional learning environments. So, you know, if it's crochet or knitting or sewing or, you know, ceramics, any number of things, I do think that there's kind of a revitalization of that happening too. And I think a lot of it is cultural and socio-political as well, is like, you know, traditional craft mediums were done by disenfranchised people, women and people of color primarily, especially in the US. So it's kind of like a reclamation of that too. I definitely think like the pandemic probably had a part of that. Yeah, because I learned so much online from the pandemic. Yeah. Like, I think that's what the same time I learned how to make macarons. I learned how to crochet. I just learned so many different things because I was stuck inside the whole time. And I think we were all trying to find like a new source of, oh, I need an outlet and I need it bad. Yeah. But I think it's just because that's the age we're in right now. Yeah. As problematic as YouTube is, I think that there is a lot to be gained from a resource like that, in terms of like skill sharing and free skill sharing specifically, because that is becoming harder and harder to find. That's so true. Yeah. Unless you're actively seeking it out and like paying like sometimes copious amounts of money. Yeah. That you don't often have. Like they have like this one app called Skillshare. Oh, yeah. But like you'd have to pay for that. Amazing. And we're done. Beautiful. Love that little rolled hem. It's so cute. It looks so clean. It's lovely. Do like just a super quick intro of what we're even looking at to start with. So this is called a fly shuttle loom. It's called a fly shuttle because the shuttle flies across the loom. And like other looms, you've got the beater bar here, and the beater bar pushes the yarn in that I just threw across to what's called the fell line. So the fell line is where the warp becomes cloth. And to make these kind of intersections that are happening here, I've got harnesses and heddles. So each individual thread is threaded through an individual heddle. Each heddle is connected to a harness. And then the harnesses are connected to treadles, which I'm pushing on my feet down here. And that's lifting up different sequences of thread. So this particular loom, we have set up what's called a plain weave, and that's over one, under one, over one, under one. So when I'm lifting here, all the even threads are up now, all the odd threads are up now. So that's what's creating the weaving channel as I'm going. So flying shuttle loom allows me to weave faster and more efficiently, especially this loom because it has an auto fell advancing system. So this loom, every time I push the beater bar in, throw that back across, every time I push that beater bar in, it moves the cloth forward exactly the length of one yarn, or like the width of one yarn. So I don't have to get up while I'm weaving, so I can weave really fast. So I'll do a quick little demo of how fast this one can go. So if all goes well, I can weave a 76-inch blanket in about 45 minutes, which is really, really fast. And I say if all goes well because often, you know, we'll have a broken thread or something like that that makes me get up and fix it. So on average, between myself and our studio manager, Emerson Croft, and the students, we average about an hour and a half per blanket to weave one, which is still really good, and it's all because of that flying shuttle. Yeah. So this is the product that we saw Danny working on in the studio. So she was doing the finishing and the sewing, kind of trimming off these little tails here and rolling the edges over to finish it.
Cool.
Yeah.
You got a nice beat going too.
Thank you. I am not a musical person at all. Like, I am super clumsy. I don't play instruments, but I feel like weaving is the one musical thing that I can do. So I love it.